Your Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Canucks, proudly part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Lachlan Irvin. Today's episode is brought to you by the top 50 NHL players. Who are this season's top 50 NHL players? Find out on the Locked On NHL podcast when Joe DiBiase, Mike DiStefano, and Rachel Donner reveal the top 50 players as voted on by our local experts across the Locked On NHL network of podcasts. Subscribe to the Locked On NHL podcast on YouTube and turn your notifications on so that you never miss an episode. Happy Monday. We're getting closer and closer to the beginning of the regular season. We're getting closer and closer to the beginning of doing the show every single weekday. And we're starting to kind of see Canucks players trickling in to Vancouver. We're going to be talking a little bit about that, plus doing another player profile today on a guy we've talked about a little bit in the past, but more today. And that is Jason Dickinson, one of the newest members of the Canucks. And he is one of the players that has made their way to Vancouver for some pre-training camp work. A lot of Vancouver players have actually attended the Vancouver Hockey School over the last week, and they're one of their NHL development camps. A number of players showed up for these camps from not just the Canucks, but from other teams across the NHL and in the AHL as well. Usually they're players with a Vancouver connection, so players who are from the area or have family in the area, and then a bunch of the Canucks usually go as well. So we had among the Canuck attendees, we had were Bo Horvat, JT Miller, Jason Dickinson, who we'll talk about later, Thatcher Demko, Brad Hunt, one of the newer guys, Jonah Gadjevich, Brady Keeper, Kyle Burrows, and Tanner Pearson. I might be missing a few in there. There are some former Canucks on that list as well, like Alex Edler, now an LA King, and Troy Stetcher, now a Red Wing, of course, and some other well-known NHL players like Martin Jones, who's now a Flyer, Sam Reinhart for the Panthers, and Bowen Byram, former Vancouver Giant, now of course with the Colorado Avalanche. But one of the names that really stuck out on this list was a young man by the name of Vasili Podkolzin. We already talked about him on a few episodes prior about his arrival in Vancouver and how big a deal that is and what it might mean for his first rookie season to come in and play here. And looks like he's already getting to work. He has been skating around. There's not obviously much footage of said practice to go off of, but both Bo Horvat and Jason Dickinson have talked about him, or Horvat, has mentioned him specifically, talking about how he looks, very comfortable. He looks very ready for a young guy coming into his first NHL season. He looks comfortable playing and skating alongside NHL, the NHL men. And of course, he has been playing professionally in Russia for the last couple years, so it's not a completely new situation for him. But the NHL is a whole other animal. He's coming into a different sort of situation, and it's good to hear from the captain that he's looking like a player who is going to be comfortable, who would be comfortable playing in the NHL and stepping into an NHL role right away, especially because the training camp, the team feels relatively set in stone, at least for the top, as far as the top 9 is concerned. But you never know. You never know how things go in training camp. Every year, someone comes into training camp and wows you, and you don't want to be the player that doesn't wow in training camp and ends up, say, getting left off in favor of somebody else just because you had a rough week in training camp and prior to the preseason starting. You don't want to be the guy who gets left behind simply for a bad week. So for Podkolzin to be coming in and playing and seemingly being able to handle himself alongside other NHL talent, that bodes well for him going into training camp, that he might be one of the players who's able to wow, so to speak, when it comes to impressing the coaches and impressing management and proving that he is capable of playing at an NHL level right away. And that will especially make the Canucks' jobs easier when it comes to how they handle their roster construction this year, and only having to focus on who you maybe make like those final three forwards that you have. Obviously, Brandon Sutter is your fourth line center. Tyler Mott's probably going to be in there. So it really leaves about, say, maybe 3 spots left. Somebody on that right wing, somebody on the wing, plus a couple scratches. So it seems like Podkolzin is going to come in and be able to prove right away that he can play at that spot, and they're not going to feel like they're taking a risk by, say, even if he doesn't have the best training camp, he won't be able to, that they have to give him a shot before they send him to the AHL, before considering the AHL. I'm liking what I'm hearing from Podkolzin. Obviously, we're getting very close to training camp now. I believe it starts next week. I believe is the beginning of training camp. Games only start very soon themselves. I believe the very first exhibition game for the Canucks is on the 26th of September in Spokane against the Seattle Kraken, the brand new Seattle Kraken. That is not that far away. It's wild. It's kind of snuck up on us, huh? Like it seems like it should still be such a long ways away, and yet in reality, if this were a normal year, we would already be well into training camp, probably well into the preseason. This is a very different year. It does feel like it kind of snuck up on us a little bit because, frankly, the free agency period didn't end all that long ago. Like, that was only about, I think, 5 or 6 weeks from now. So we're getting closer. We're getting closer to the real news, of course, to the bigger news coming in. Of course, the 2 players that have yet to show up here are Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes. Both are still abroad. So, the news is going to start to get fast and furious here. We're going to start to get a little bit more insight to what the Canucks are going to be looking like, more into those contracts. And it's not going to take long before we start to see this team really take shape prior to the start of the regular season on October 13th. We're going to talk about Jason Dickinson and our new Canucks player profile in just a moment. But first, I need to tell you about BetOnline.ag. There's only one place that has you covered and one place that we trust for sports betting. It's that time of year again, and all eyes are now turning to football as teams are back on the gridiron to start the football season. And as always, BetOnline is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. Get all the updated odds, props, and contests, including online's biggest $500,000 NFL Mega Contest and the world's largest $200,000 NFL Survivor Contest, open now at BetOnline. Head on over to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus by using the promo code LOCKEDON. You can no longer take part in their opening day super promo. Of course, the NFL season has begun. But there are plenty of other offers available for you this season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports, from football, basketball, boxing, hockey, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait and take advantage of all the great offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. Does this sound familiar? You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows, you're watching sports highlights on your phone, and you've got your neighbor's best friend login for all the good stuff. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all of that entertainment you love without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called Directv Stream, and it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there's no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with Directv Stream. You can learn more at directv.com. That's directv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package. Moving on over now to the Canucks player profile for today. Today we are talking about a new Vancouver Canuck coming into the team this year, and he's going to be a very big part of the Canucks this year, and that's Jason Dickinson. He is entering his 6th NHL season. He is entering his 7th, coming off of his 6th, all of which were with the Dallas Stars. He was picked up prior to the expansion draft. The Stars knew they were probably going to lose him, so the Canucks were able to swoop in and get him for a very, very low price for what his capability is. So they're getting a great center, a great third line center. He was talking actually at the Vancouver Hockey School, talking about what he brings to the team, along with like how he feels this Canucks team, what he sees in this group. And he actually gave some good insight. You know, hockey players, sometimes it's not easy to always get the better the details out of them sometimes. And Dickinson talked about not only trying to familiarizing himself with the city, his team, his new teammates, and everything else. He talked about how, looking at the Canucks, they're a team, how the best teams and the championship teams are made up of players in their mid-20s, and having that core that's built together of great talent surrounded by a good supporting cast. He specifically mentioned how Tampa Bay has been such a catalyst for making that work. And he said that he feels the Canucks have those pieces, and it's just about now they need to find the supporting cast to play with them, which is correct, which is very correct. If you've been watching the Canucks at any point over the last so many years, it has long been a case of some incredible players surrounded by not always the most equal to the task supporting group. So for Dickinson to come in and already have that mindset of, all right, this is a team that has struggled to keep up in their depth when it comes to scoring and being good defensively. He seems to understand his role already, which is huge. It's something that the Canucks have really struggled with, to find guys like a Jason Dickinson in the past. So for him to be coming in already knowing exactly what he's here to do, and basically talking the talk about, all right, I'm the third line center. My job is to shut down people defensively and be great in my own end and not make life harder for the top two lines who are going to be focusing on scoring. I'm going to make that happen. That's kind of the mentality that Jason Dickinson already has here. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be focused solely on defense. Last year, he scored 15 points. Not a lot, but it was ninth on the Stars in team scoring. And this was kind of the part that actually caught my eye more than his personal scoring. And that was looking over his time on ice last season and what teammates he played with most often, specifically his fellow forwards. He played with he played with quite a few different players for over 60 minutes of ice time, but there was no player that he spent more time with last year on the ice, no other forward, than Denis Gurianov. Gurianov is a younger member of the Stars. He's been in their farm system for a little while, and he's been a very important. He's been part of their kind of the scoring touch for them of late. Gurianov actually finished 6th in team scoring last season, with double the amount of points that Dickinson had, with 30. He finished with 30 points. He's only 24. And this was just his first full season with the at the NHL level. He played a lot. Well, I guess his second, pardon me. He had 29 points in 64 games in 2019-20, and then in 2021 he had 30 in 55. So he hit a career high, NHL career high last year in less games. And that came while playing the majority of his time with Dickinson. We're going to talk a little bit more about Jason Dickinson after the break, but first I need to tell you about Built Bar. Built Bar is a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, and they have so many great flavors for you to try. Have you tried them yet? They have got flavors like double chocolate, orange, German chocolate, raspberry, and cherry barcia. And if you haven't tried all the flavors, you can get a mixed box where you get 2 of each of their 9 flavors. I'm somebody who's currently going to school, and I know sometimes it's very tempting for me to go and eat at the cafe or at the Triple O's burger place right nearby, but that's unhealthy. Why do that when I could have a nice healthy snack like a Built Bar? They're the best tasting and healthy bars on the market, ranging from only 130 to 180 calories and only 4 to 5 grams of sugar per bar. That's incredible. All of the amazing flavors, all tasty and all healthy. Order today, and you can maybe get their limited edition grasshopper cookie flavor by going to built.com using the promo code LOCKED15, where you'll get 15% off of your next order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. That's important. That stuck out to me because this is a young winger who saw his points and his scoring touch go up with a little bit more ice time based on playing more ice time and a bigger role along potentially with a lot of that being alongside Dickinson. And that feels important because of a player we already talked about today, and that's Vasili Podkolzin. Podkolzin's obviously younger. He's probably not coming in. The idea of him maybe coming in and scoring 30 points. If Podkolzin scores 30 points in his rookie season, that's a great year. That's an incredible year where there is nothing to complain about. But what more it's about is less the actual points totals themselves, and rather the fact that Dickinson is clearly capable of playing alongside younger players, more scoring first players, and being able to give them the assistance and help that they need. Being able to be not bringing them down necessarily. He might not necessarily be the best scorer himself, but he seems to be making it easier for those players to get comfortable playing at an NHL level and being able to score more points and focus on their own side, on their own game, rather than because they have Dickinson there as the stabilizing force. And that's going to be huge for this Canucks team. If Podkolzin ends up playing as much as he does on that third, as he likely will in the early parts of the season on the third line with Dickinson and with either a Tanner Pearson or a Connor Garland, that's going to factor in big time to see how many points he ends up putting up. If he's getting the defensive help from Dickinson and learning the ropes that way, and is also able to focus more on his own scoring, that's going to really play well, and it's going to make Dickinson's stock rise even higher than it already is. I think the odds are right now that I think just based on the way the Canucks are kind of gearing up to start this year, I would not be surprised if Dickinson matches his highest point totals, his career high point totals of 22. He had a 22-point season in 2018-19, and he was on pace to break that in 2019-20 had the season not paused. I think it's entirely possible that playing with Podkolzin and one of the other top wingers on the Canucks, that Dickinson ends up being able to still be as good as he is in his own end of the ice, while maybe potentially being able to set a personal best in scoring this year. Now, that might end up still being only like, say, 23 or 24 points or 25, but that's still great. The ability to get the more players you can get over that 20-point plateau every season, the better. It's sometimes that's a good measuring stick for a hockey team, and how deep they are offensively is how many players can crack specifically that 20-point total. That marker is a very good marker for showing how good your team is and how how well balanced they are. Because it means it means that you're scoring about once every 4 games. That's a healthy number. That means you're getting scoring opportunities. You're often carrying the puck. You quite often find yourself with possession, and something that Dickinson has been very good at as well is his possession numbers are quite good. This is going to be a big test for Dickinson to see if he can do this on a team that's a little bit that hasn't always necessarily been as stacked scoring wise that the Stars have been over the last couple of years. I mean, that's a team that went to the Stanley Cup Finals only 2 years ago. And also a team that plays a little bit more strong defensively. The Stars are a much better defensive team. And then the Canucks, Dickinson is going to have his work cut out for him here in Vancouver. So it's going to be a bit of an interesting challenge, to say the least. But I think you're going to see this season that not only is Dickinson capable of everything he did in Dallas, he's going to come exactly as advertised. I think you might potentially see him hit a career high in points, playing alongside some great young scorers and talent. And I think you're going to see him rise to the occasion here in Vancouver and show that he was one of the biggest steals of the expansion draft and the 2021 offseason. And that is going to wrap it up for this Monday edition of Locked On Canucks. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to check out our sister show, Locked On Bets. Betting on the Canucks doesn't have to be a guessing game if you listen to the new Locked On Bets podcast hosted by your boy Q and handicapping expert Lee Sterling. Get daily picks, blowout specials, wrong team favorite picks, and Lee Sterling's lock of the day. Follow the Locked On Bets podcast brought to you by BetOnline.ag wherever you get your podcasts. I have been your host, Lachlan Irvin. You can find me on Twitter at Lock in the Crease. You can find my writing work at lockinthecrease.com. And you can also go check out my other podcast, The Creasecast. It is on all of your local podcasting platforms. Speaking of podcasting platforms, you can find this show on all of your favorites, including YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you tap that bell for notifications whenever a new episode pops up. We do this every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday this week. And then I believe next week is when we start the Monday to Friday schedule. So 5 shows a week. How about that? And make sure to go check out the podcast Twitter account as well. That is at Locked On Canucks. And with that, thank you so much for listening. This has been Locked On Canucks, and I will see you next time. Bye.